What's going on, everyone? My name is Ryan, aka Juno Ryan, and in today's video we're doing a first look, a first glance at this behemoth of a reel, the Shimano Tiagra 80 wide, arguably the best big game reel on the market. Let's dive in. So this isn't a comprehensive review. I've just purchased this reel, although I have used them for a couple years. In order to do a fully comprehensive, something that I feel like is a proper review, you really have to fish one of these reels for like 5 to 10 years consistently. So we'll call this a first glance, a first look, not an unboxing, because the way I got this reel is I bought it at a pre-owned tackle dealership out here in Japan. I could actually get some pretty sweet deals. I got this thing for about 50% what it goes for in the US. And the thing was in immaculate condition. So pretty stoked on that, and had a sweet spooling and line. So basically how this video is going to work is I'm going to go over the specs from the reel. I'm going to talk through some of the competitors. I'm going to talk through what the internet says. What do you see the most traffic on online, on message boards, on forums? Remember when forums were a thing? And we'll end the video with my overall recommendation for you all. Take that for what you will. I am just a guy talking to a camera on the internet. So, definitely not the end all be all, but I do have a little bit of experience in this area. So hopefully providing some value to you guys. Let's dig into the specs. So the specifications that Shimano is advertising on their North America website, because they actually have more than one website, is 80-pound monofilament. You can fit about 950 yards. When I was working at a tackle shop in Florida, I spooled up a lot of these, and when I spooled them with 80-pound Moi Moi mono, I typically would get right about 1,000 yards actually on the machine. Now, maybe that's because I was spooling them extra tight, maybe a little bit tighter than Shimano had done and tested, but I could fit right around 1,000 yards. Eventually, I'll probably put braid backing, like 150-pound braid on here, which you will fit a metric shit ton on it, and then put a little mono on top of that, like 130-pound mono. It weighs 115 ounces, which just means that this is a heavy boy. You're gonna fish it in a rod holder most of the time. You're not gonna be casting any lily pads with this big old hunk of metal. It's got 4 ball bearings. It's not like a Shimano Stella, not like crazy spinning reels these days that they put like 16 ball bearings in. Doesn't matter, it's a workhorse of a reel. High gear. If you guys don't know, big game reels have 2 speeds. So you have a high gear and you have a low gear. So while I'm reeling like this, I'm gaining more and more line, but I have less torque. When I push this button in, I'm gaining less line. It's at a lower gear ratio, but I have more torque. So I'm able to crank and crank and crank and turn the head of those big fish, big sharks, tuna, marlin, whatever it is. You're able to gain line in situations where there's just so much tension. So 2.5 to 1 is high gear, and Shimano actually doesn't even have the low gear advertised on their North America website. I had to go onto their Australia website in order to see what the low gear ratio was, which is a 1:3 to 1. Yeah, that's kind of bogus marketing. Maybe they should fix that. Power Pro, they're saying 150-pound Power Pro, you are fitting 2,365 yards is what they have advertised, even though 100-pound Power Pro, they're having 2,400 yards. I don't really think that's right, guys. Honestly, I would suspect you're probably fitting around like 1,800 yards. I really feel like this could likely be a typo, but I don't know. I actually haven't filled one all the way up with braid, so yeah, it seems a little funky, and Shimano has, in the past, conveniently had mistakes on their websites to look like inflated numbers, so it seems a little bit fishy to me. The maximum drag, maximum amount of force that this reel can stop line from coming out at a smooth, consistent rate is 40 pounds, which is a whole lot of pressure. Shit, I can't even pull this right now, guys. So freaking tight. So we'll back off a little bit. This right here, that tension that I'm pulling against, the maximum amount of tension can be 40 pounds. Now that is ridiculous amount of tension. You may think, what do you mean? I can pick up a 40-pound weight in the gym and it doesn't weigh that much at all. Trust me, y'all, when you're sitting there fighting a fish, the rod, the reel, you're actually at a very huge disadvantage physics-wise when you're fighting a fish on rod and reel. The fish has all of the power. If you don't believe me, have your buddy go running with the lure in his hand when you have the rod, and he'll be like, I wasn't even doing anything hard, and you'll be struggling. So 40 pounds is actually a lot. And there's reels out there like Avid Raptors that put out redonkulous amounts of drag. I'll tell you what, unless you're like an NFL defensive end, you're not holding on to more than 40 pounds of drag. You normal looking dudes like me, sorry guys, that's just how it is. That's the hand we got dealt. So correction to that last number, I just did a little bit more digging, and I think Shimano's website just has averages of the max drag, but the max drag at full, so when the lever is all the way up and you have this thing preset super tight, it's 44 pounds, so a little bit more. And the max drag at strike, back here, right before you pass the button, is 35 pounds. Regardless, those numbers are arbitrary, and other reel companies, and I mean a bunch of reel companies these days, will sell people on maximum drag values as being a huge marketing thing. It's plenty of drag, y'all. 40 something pounds is plenty of drag for a big game reel, trust me. One of the unique things about Shimano's, and something I've always been a fan of, is their ability to be serviced. Certain reels, especially when you get into niche reels like a dual or an accurate, a lot of shops can't service them. Shimano's, Penn's, big names, they are very easily serviced because shops don't have to have specialized trained guys. They can service these. They're super common. The more common they are, the more people service them. Also, the big companies like Shimano, you're able to send them in, and they have a very reputable, a very streamlined service. They service a lot of reels. They know how to work on them and get them back to you in a quick manner. Being that bigger company, they can typically get it done for a little bit cheaper too. So I'm always a big fan of Shimano's in that regard. Really never had a problem with all my Stradics, all of my spinning reels, the Stella included. Big fan of service. And when you do get that niche reel, that reel that hasn't been around for very long, or that reel that not a lot of people have, you may struggle to have service with it. So that's definitely a benefit of one of these big time name brand reels. So I scoured the internet looking for really, what was the main narrative? What were most people saying when it came to Penn's, Shimano's, Okuma's, Accurates, Duals, Avits? What did most people like using? Because I can go with, I can explain to you guys why I picked something like this, but I wanted to see really what the consensus was around the world, because I only fish in my little bubble per se, right? I try and fish with a bunch of different people, but I'm only one guy. So we have this amazing resource that is message boards. We have this amazing thing called Google where you can search all of these crazy experiences that people have had with reels. And really, from what I've found, the common trends, we'll talk the negatives actually of the Tiagra, is the anodization. So the finish on this particular reel tends to pit a little bit easier than other reels. I've seen that in the past, especially with wire line, which will hold a lot of salt and other nastiness in there, pits into the spool. So the anodization isn't as good. People love, like, I was actually really surprised, this isn't something that I think is a big deal, but people love the clicker on these things. And actually, it sounds pretty freaking good. That's pretty satisfying to the angler. So people love the clickers on these, and just the overall reliability of the reels. More boats than anything, especially on the East Coast, will load themselves with this reel. You'll see it more commonly than anything. But a lot of people liked Penn's, a lot of people liked Okuma's. You have fans of all different types of reels, but those were really the common trends. You didn't really see a trend of catastrophic failure in certain areas. It was more onesies and twosies, but that almost seemed like it was across the board with all of these big reels. So it's almost, in this line, you just don't see in this type of reel, big game reels, you're really able to overbuild them, so you just don't see catastrophic failures. You don't see big time problems with something that you can over engineer in this size. So we've gotten good at building these reels. It's 2020. We've been building reels like this since, you know, the 50s, probably a lot longer than that. Realistically, there's lots of competitors out there, and you could be successful with all those competitors, but it's just pick your poison. You know, do you want to drive a Chevy truck or you don't want to drive a Ford truck? They're both going to get you from A to B. Well, some people would argue that, but they're both going to get you from A to B. So my overall assessment, my first look, because I haven't fished this reel for 10 years yet, so we can't call this a comprehensive review, but the Shimano Tiagra is a very reliable, very strong, sturdy reel from a reputable company. It's not something that's going to fail you. You're going to be able to use it for those big game applications, that shark fishing off the beach, that trolling for marlin, that deep dropping for grouper. Really, whatever application you need a big game reel for, this will meet the mark. Now, that's not saying other reels on the market won't do it. Many of them can, and like I was just telling you guys, we're pretty good at 2020 at building a large conventional reel. Engineers have figured it out, per se, so a lot of companies make a lot of great reels these days, and we're really blessed in that aspect that we can, you know, buy a bunch of different reels and we can all, you know, meet our needs. If you wanted something blue, you could probably find something blue, whatever fits your style, guys. So for me, what sets this apart is the company backing it. Shimano is a very reputable company. You'll be able to get it serviced, you'll be able to get parts for it, and you're not going to run into issues that smaller companies may have, you know, back-ordered parts, certain shops can't work on it, etc. So to sum it up, is this the best big game reel on the market? I'll leave it up to you guys to determine that. I think it's arguably one of the best big game reels on the market, but there's a bunch that can do the same job. So I'm gonna stick with this guy. I'm gonna chase some big freaking marlin with it this spring. I'm gonna chase some giant tuna, and let's see if we can catch some fish of a lifetime. Thank you guys so much that have stuck around this far into the video. You know, listen to me blabber about talking about a fishing reel. That's pretty cool. A couple things I wanted to show you guys. I got some stuff in the mail that I think is just awesome. So unrelated to the reel, if you just came for the reel, I'm pretty much done talking about it. So let's check this stuff out. It's kind of a lame unboxing because I already opened it. So a gentleman that I used to fish with, I fished with him a couple times up in the panhandle of Florida. He goes by the name of Tom Cruise. Pretty sweet, that's his actual name. Sent me a bunch of handmade lures, and it's a freaking heavy box, y'all. And check out how many freaking lures he sent me. This is just awesome, and all handmade by him. Bunch of different of these, basically just metals with hooks on them. These would just crush the mahi-mahi on the rocks. If you guys have seen any of those videos, that will be pretty sweet. A bunch of general purpose bucktails. You can never have them too many of these. All of the mahi-mahi that we catch on the boat will just go crazy for these. So I look forward to using them. Just look at this crazy guy. Got some crazy cat eyes, and he's got the crazy tentacles. This is gonna have some sweet action to it. There's just a giant freaking box of lures. Thank you very much, Tom. You're the freaking man. I'll link Tom's Instagram around here. He actually makes YouTube videos now too. He's also in the service just like me. He's in the Air Force. So thank you, Tom. You're the freaking man. Y'all, that is all the time I'm gonna have today. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you have anything to say about the video, please leave a comment in the section below and I'll be sure to get back to you. You guys are awesome, and I'll see ya in that next one. Peace.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.